Harrison Price for Wednesday, April 15th, 2026, presentation of Bet365. Check out Bet365's 3-goal early payout. When your team goes up 3, you get paid. It's that simple. Download the app today. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Matt Sakaris with Blake Price.
My mic is not on.
Again. Mike Rogerson hitting switches and conducting things in the producer's booth. He's collecting Junos. He's collecting provincial basketball championships. He's collecting world log rolling championships. And today he's collecting interns. We got Quinlan Curry and Elijah Ford back with us. There they are. Hey, how about that? Look at that
group.
Hi, fellas.
It must
how
be
we
a
doing?
huge room.
Yeah, exactly. Tight spaces in there. We got Mike's ISOCam working this week. If you were wanting no longer a disembodied voice, you can actually see him. Hi, guys. Thanks for helping out today. They're both back here from BCIT for their second tour. Blake, they actually requested coming back after their first
to spend more time with you
and Mike. It must be Mike. Me.
Yeah.
Hey. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio here at the Historic Wall Center. Visit shoptoyota.ca. Visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Daily poll question. 81 games in the books. Zeev Buium, one of the stars last night in a Canucks win. We'll get into that. Marco Rossi's been outstanding here for the last quarter of the season. We've talked about that. Liam Ogren has shown his flashes. And, of course, we're tracking that first-round pick. You're hoping for the Dallas Stars to defeat the Minnesota Wild in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, see if that pick can creep up as high as possible. Do you feel better about the Quinn Hughes trade today than at the time it was made? That, of course, was in mid-December. You can vote yes, you can vote no. Do so at the Harrison Price X and YouTube channels. Mr. Price, what says you?
Buium's play is not necessarily the catalyst for that. To me, it was the assurance via his play that Marco Rossi is exactly what people thought that he was going to be, and that is a certified second-line center in the National Hockey League who can masquerade at times perhaps even as your top-line center. That's a tough position to fill in the NHL. And so the danger with making a Quinn Hughes trade is if you trade it all for futures, you may not have any of them pan out to the level of, a significant role on your NHL team. They know they've got that. They've got Marco Rossi. They've got a very important role locked up. So you didn't get nothing out of there. You got the pick, which is the pick, and it's going to be a decent pick, but it's a pick. Now, Zeev Buium is the gravy in a lot of ways. If Zeev Buium, and he's not going to be I don't think he's ever going to be a top defenseman on an NHL team. But if he can be a 2-3 guy and can be
2, got to be a 2.
If he can be better than Shane Gostisbehere,
that's it.
I don't want him to just be Shane Gostisbehere. He needs to get over that bar. If he can be, a notch or two above that, huge success story.
Well,
for the trade,
I think you've hit the nail on the head in terms of where the trade pivots.
Yeah.
Because when the trade was made, and even after he struggled early, I had zero concerns about Marco Rossi. That's a bona fide NHL player. Now, if you want to quibble with, is he truly a second-line center at that size? Can you win with them in the playoffs? As Minnesota obviously had that conversation. Hey, fair enough. But that's a bona fide second-line center in the regular season who is going to score points, who can make others better. So I felt good about Rossi, even with the struggles and the injuries that he dealt with soon after the deal here to Vancouver. Now, at the time, I said I think the trade pivots on Ogren because Ogren, I think, has the, in golf, they would say cone dispersion, the widest possible degree of outcomes. There's good tools there. And look, I think he's proven he's an NHL player as well. Now, how good an NHL player he can be remains to be seen. But Buium, the pivot on Buium is, as you say, and I remember talking to a scout the night of the trade, and he said, look, the range of outcomes here on the low end is someone like Gostisbehere, who puts up points, but really is a sheltered defenseman that you're not going to use.
In the case this year, he had 50 points this year. He did a really nice year.
Gostisbehere is a good offensive producer.
Yeah.
My scout friend told me the high end is someone like Josh Morrissey, who's a number one defenseman and quarterbacks your power play and is a big part of your offensive attack. I do want to see Buium get to the level of being a number two defenseman, a top pair defenseman, paired with a defensive-minded guy, or at least a defensive-minded guy who can play with the puck a little as well and get the best out of him. And that's where I think they got something going on with Philip Hronek.
He's
but I got to say, there were times along these last, what are we talking, 3 months here, 4 months, where I worried a little bit about Buium.
Yep, for sure.
Last night was not one of those times. He was terrific.
Well, he doesn't have the edge work of Quinn Hughes. If Quinn Hughes is the 10 out of 10 on edge work, I think Buium's is 8. He doesn't have the flash and dash of Matthew Schaefer. If Schaefer's a 10, I think Buium's a 7.5 sort of thing. But I think there's improvement to be made. Again, he is just 20 years of age. And again, back to the Gostisbehere comparison. Gostisbehere's rookie year, he was 22. You get 2 more years of development of Buium before you can rightfully make the comparison laterally between those two players. And again, I think it's unfair to think that he will ever get to Schaefer or Hughes. He won't.
Yeah.
But, if you can be 85% of either of those players, you're doing really well.
Yeah.
It's a very good player.
I'll tell you the other thing that has me feeling better about the trade right now as well, and I'll vote yes. And this could very well be just because I'm digging in a little deeper on draft prospects, whereas in December they were more names. And look, I do think there is a fall off between 24, 25, which is roughly where this Minnesota pick is going to wind up. I think you're into basically the second round tier there, where whoever you're taking with that pick could be interchangeable with a lot of guys taken early and maybe even through the middle part of the second round. But the more I dig in and the more I ask questions and talk to prospect people and read and see highlights on social about some of these draft prospects, I do wonder whether they're going to get a player there too.
No, they might. They might.
Like perhaps a guy who is in a tier ahead of that, but just falls because teams in front of them, take bigger swings. Longer shot guys. Not to mention, again, digging in and like reading about players like Nikita Klepov, who had a sensational season in Saginaw this year in the OHL. 97 points in 67 games. We mentioned the other Russian, Shilov, in Victoriaville, the Quebec League, with Craig Button and Cam Robinson recently, who were fans. Piparainen, the right shot Finnish defenseman, who probably doesn't project as a scorer, but hey, big right shot shutdown defenseman. The 2 Swedish defensemen, Hankinson and Gustafsson. So the more I sort of explore the guys who could be around at that pick, it also makes me feel better about the Hughes trade.
Yeah, I think it was just on this side of fair. Like there is I'll say this is as glowing as I'll get about it. There is a way they can win this trade, and
Yep.
that means it was fair enough.
We said that at the time.
Yeah.
The old hockey axiom, whoever gets the best player wins the trade, that predates the salary cap. That doesn't apply anymore.
Yeah.
You can make a volume trade and win now in the
Yes.
National Hockey League. We've seen this. Ottawa did so with Erik Karlsson. Colorado did so with Matt Duchene.
Well, in totality, the Las Vegas Golden Knights expansion team is sort of proof of that.
Exactly.
0 superstars on the team, but when your floor is so high,
That's it.
and
It took us a while to realize that, but what we realized was the most favorable stocking draft in pro sports history gave that Vegas expansion team such a floor where, most teams were playing with pure fourth line forwards, pure third pair defensemen, and Vegas was a smidge better than that across the board. And so
a bunch of
in the
middle players.
totality, add it all up,
Yeah.
kind of a Billy Bean Moneyball approach, they were able to construct a very competitive roster. Coming out of that, even again, I mean, Carlson scored the 40-whatever goals, but, they didn't have the true superstar and were still an excellent team.
It was William Karlsson.
Yeah.
Like, who had heard of William Karlsson? So,
and look, I think what we said the night the trade broke applies. It's effectively 4 first-round picks for Quinn Hughes because all of these guys were first-round picks, the 3 players, Buium, Ogren, and Rossi, plus the first-round pick that's to come. And, of course, some of them were not just first-round picks, but high first-round picks. I mean, Marco Rossi was 9th overall. Buium was, 10th overall? 11th overall? 12th overall? That's like first half of the first round or even first third of the first round picks.
And I don't think it's...
So I think
I don't think it's crazy talk to think that Liam Ogren can score 20 next year.
I don't think so either. Or at the very least, settle into being a perennial 20-goal scorer.
Yeah, in the next 2 years. Like,
he was better than a top 20. He was 19th overall.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I look. It was a hockey trade. We don't see a lot of those anymore, or we didn't for the longest time with flat cap. And I think it could absolutely be one of those cliches it sounds. Fair trades where both teams got what they needed. Minnesota got it a superstar and someone who put them over the top in what has been a very difficult division, still is, and where they have often banged their head, right? Like they don't get past the first or second round. And Vancouver gets stocked with young players to begin their rebuild.
On the Rossi thing, too, what I've been encouraged there is, and I don't think he's ever going to get to a 100-point player, but when you've got a player in the 80 to 100-point category, they get points on nights where you don't necessarily notice them as being one of the great players, but they're there because the offense just filters through them. And Rossi has nights like that where he has a 2-assist night where you're like, okay, he was fine. I didn't really notice him. Yeah, but you know what? Yep. He makes things happen down the line where offense comes from his seedling. And that's what we're seeing from Rossi. That's a guy that, I mean, Matt, I'm not convinced, but I think it's possible he could score 80 points on like as a career high sort of thing.
Yep. We used to say that about the Twins. We used to say that about JT Miller.
Yeah. Not one of those guys, but
you're sitting there and going, okay, that wasn't their best game. And then you look at the stat sheet and you go, oh, look at that. There are points.
Yeah.
They find ways to contribute even when they don't have their best or even when the matchup is tough.
Yeah.
And look, for those who were in the room last night with Adam Foote, it was clear that the Canucks head coach wanted to go out of his way and pour his heart out with the season winding down here, and pour his heart out in terms of what he is seeing and what he has been talking about over the last 40 days or so since the trade deadline in terms of a culture shift. So let's hear from Coach.
They've been getting torn apart as a group for a very long time, and they decided, hey, this is our team. We know where we're going. We're staying here. This is who we've got. And it allows the way Besser, Phil, Blueger, Marcus, the way they're leading allows the youth to grow and grow faster and allows them to be more of a free spirit. They're holding them accountable, but in a different way, which is very positive to see. So it's not a fluke what happened the last 3 games. These teams are pushing they all wanted to beat us because of their own destinies. And, we're doing things right. We're playing as a team. They're sticking to the game plan. And what I like is every game's got a time where it's not going to go your way. There's going to be a swing. And, maybe 6 weeks ago, probably before the break, you'd see us maybe let 2 quick ones in. So it was happened tonight where we got up and then they got a quick one and we didn't panic or get off our game. That's a sign of growth. And it's been a roller coaster this year of things that a lot of those players control. And again, I'll get thought, yeah, they're paid pros, but it's human. I mean, those trade deadlines, I never thought for a while I'd get traded, but you hear your name, you're like, oh, you know what I mean? And it's tough. But I'm proud of them. I mean, they're grinding. That's a big, heavy team, and they stuck in. Like you saw, Z got knocked down twice, and he got up and he went right back at the guy, and he had no fear. And that's got to be a good feeling for the fans to see that. He's a young guy. He's gonna get stronger. But he's playing tenacious, and it's a good sign for the future.
That was Byfield taking him down a couple of times.
And I got to say, and we have been critical of Adam Foote's messaging and articulation over the years. That right there is NHL head coaching stuff and commentary. When I heard that, I found myself nodding my head like, yeah, you tell him, coach. And what I particularly loved about it was the first part of the answer, which he circled back to at the end. And honestly, this was a theory that started running through coaching circles in all sports after the first New England Patriots dynasty of 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. There was a book written about it, The Patriot Way. And it came down to, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and the leadership group of that team coming to a brass tacks conclusion, and that is, if players don't own the process, we've got no chance. What's important, like coaches can yell at you, they can scream at you, they can try and motivate you, but if there is not a singular and self-motivation with every guy at every locker stall who knows at all times, I have agency here. There's all sorts of noise, outside factors that can influence things, but at the end of the day, the last bastion of human independence is I control my own attitude. I control my own agency. And so to hear Foote talking about that, and particularly with some of the guys like Roenick and Besser who have stepped into the leadership breach, but also down to the young players like Buium, who's demonstrating this on many a night, I think is true cultural. I don't want to say change because, oh, wow, there's a lot that's got to change here, but progress.
What I think is interesting about his comments there and about the change in the players over the last 2 weeks, and they would never admit to this, but I think the players know this coach is probably not coming back. And I think the players can't say I'm going rogue too early because there's just too much runway left. I'll never get on the ice. I'm going to get a healthy scratch, blah, blah, blah. Once you're down to only 4 or 5 games left in the season, and again, whether it's a conscious decision-making process or not, they might just start to play with a little more gut instinct rather than, coach said when this happens, I got to go do this, and just start to play their game rather than whatever that crazy system is that he's asked me to play. And I think maybe that's what we're seeing is some of the players playing a little bit more freely, not worrying about the consequences because there's only a few games left in the season. And that's probably why they're having more fun too.
Yeah.
Is they're playing their game.
Do you feel better about the Quinn Hughes trade today than at the time it was made? Yes or no? Vote at the Sekerson Price X and YouTube channels. Let's get to our top story, brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Canucks win a third straight, beat LA 4-3 in overtime on a pair of Jake DeBrusk goals, including the game winner. DeBrusk up to a team-leading 23 goals, 19 on the power play as he continues his strong finish to this season with goals in 3 straight, 7 of the last 8, and 9 of the last 12. And you know he's a good speaker, and you know he understands audience with his dad in the broadcasting business. Here's DeBrusk talking about how it was really nice to get a win for the fans on Fan Appreciation Night.
It's been a tough go, especially for the fans. I think that the biggest thing I've noticed is how the seats are still pretty much packed, and it's a good crowd every single night. So it's a small consolation, but especially on Fan Appreciation Night, guys are talking about it in their minds, and obviously it went the distance. So it was nice to get that one, and hear the crowd for the last time this year.
And that's awesome that the players have noticed that the stands are still full or mostly full with the worst team in the league by a mile And it's great that they do understand there's an expectant audience, that there are people who pay their salaries who have deserved better, and to try and do their utmost for them towards the end of this year. Incidentally, with 19 power play goals, Jake DeBrusk is tied for third in the league, with Kirill Kaprizov trailing only Wyatt Johnson and Pavel. How do you say his name in Vegas?
Dorfev.
Yeah.
It's a very
Who has
sellable.
37 goals this year,
He's
incidentally.
had a hell of a year. DeBrusk is really interesting for the Canucks because, and we're going to talk to David Pagnotta about him coming up, about whether or not he still does want to move on. That stat, that's on the front of the brochure if you're trying to market him. And then overall, I mean, Matt, this is a better season now for him than the season that led him to signing with the Canucks, his free agent season, which allowed him to sign this contract. He's been in the league 9 years. This is the end of his 9th season in the NHL. This is going to be his 4th or 5th best season. Like, that's what this little burst here at the end has done for him. That's a good story for the Canucks for a couple of reasons. It's proven if he stays, he is what you thought he was. As if after 9 seasons you necessarily needed corroboration there, but he hasn't lost it. And then if you want to move on from him, he has not hurt his stock. I think he should be still well regarded.
Well, and there's all sorts of context around the player. They were absolutely destitute at center ice to begin with. He didn't have a playmaker, a creator, a setup artist around him. The other thing I'll say is he's shooting 10.6% this year. His career mark is 12.6.
Yeah.
So he's below his even. So he is absolutely marketable, and he is absolutely marketable for a good return this offseason. Again,
And
if he wants out, he's turning 30 next October. Do you want to play for a playoff team? Do you want to be a part of the rebuild? Or even independently, if the Canucks just say, look, Jake, we'd love you to stay, but we feel the time is right now to get what we can for you because of the process we're going through. Where do you want to go? You've got trade protection, and we'll work with you.
And in a locker room that has been, or in an organization that has been an absolute calamity off the ice, he's the guy that can walk away from that room relatively stink-free. Like, no one says a bad word about this guy.
Did get the healthy scratch earlier this year, and it lit a fire.
Yep.
And he said all the right things there, too.
And it'll be his only absence of this season after playing 82 next year.
Right.
So he's fully healthy for his tenure as a Vancouver Canuck.
Zeev Williams scores, logs a team-high 25 minutes of ice time. It's the most he's ever played in a Vancouver uniform. Dazzles on that one shift, that foot noted, getting knocked down, just keeping at it. Understood the spacing and the loss of stick for was it Byfield who lost the stick on the power play and moved into the empty open ice to score that goal on the beautiful.
He saw a lot of
Give and
Byfield.
go.
He saw a lot of Byfield.
Yeah, he did.
Which is
That's a
tough.
big boy.
It's a
That's
big boy.
a very
to move.
big boy to see a lot of.
Yeah.
And here he was talking in the post game about the joy of winning and earning the fan award for most exciting player.
Well, it's just fun to win. I mean, when you lose, it's hard to come to the rink with a smile on your face and try to stay positive. And when you're winning, obviously, it's a lot easier and easier to look at the positives. So I think this whole year, though, we've done a great job of understanding that even though we lose, it's okay to come to the rink and stay positive and keep chugging along and not letting ourselves dig a hole. And I think sometimes when you're losing, you can dig yourself a hole and it just goes deeper and deeper and deeper until you're lost. And I think for us, we're doing really good recently, just not letting ourselves get down and staying positive. So I think it's definitely getting a lot better.
Steve, what does it mean to you for the fans to have voted you the most exciting player?
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I think, for me personally, you want to give the fans, some wins, something to cheer for, and it's nice that I can do that for them, and hopefully there's more of it, and I think we play for them. A lot of it is, when you play at home here, especially in this market, it's unbelievable. These fans are incredible. We haven't given them a lot to cheer for, and they show up every night and just they're so happy to be here. So, like I said, it's nice to kind of get this win tonight, and hopefully moving forward we can get more.
Dare to dream about this guy for when he eventually does start to put some points on the board and have some confidence on a team that gets some wins. So this year, and this includes the first half of the season with Minnesota, never had more than a 3-game point streak, which, again, rookie season, no one is saying he should have. he had 5 points in 3 games in his second, third, and fourth game of the season. Great start to the year for Buium. But they only won one of those 3 games. But imagine this guy, Matt, on a 4-game point streak, and the team is 3-1 in those 4 games. He could be an unstoppable force. Like that guy with some confidence and having fun getting wins. Yeah. And I'm not saying next year. I'm saying, 3-4 years from now, this guy could be a lot of fun to watch.
Agreed. I don't want to be a wet blanket here because he wins the most exciting. He has a great game, and everybody loves what kind of a communicator he is. But it's 12 points in 44 games this year. So
it's
a
long way to go.
Long
way to go
here. The good news is he's got age on his side. And in fact, so do some of his comrades there on that blue line, because all 4 of the Canucks' young defensemen hit the score sheet last night. Buium and EP40, Elias Pettersson scored. Mike, what was the stat you had about the 2 Elias Petterssons?
The 2 Elias Petterssons are tied in goals in the last 3 months.
Holy shit.
Just give me a minute. I'll have that wash over me.
Oh, my God.
Kudryavtsev and Verlander picked up assists. Kudryavtsev has 2 points in the 2 games. So good on the young Russian who's playing his offside, the right side. Has done that in Abbotsford.
Got a good comment about him, actually. Rich.
Okay, what's that?
From Free Petey. Kirill's looking good because he hasn't had time underfoot, basically.
Yeah.
Just basically what you're talking about. He's just freewheeling it, playing hockey.
Yeah, I
playing Manny's
can understand
system,
that.
maybe.
Yeah.
That's even more incriminating.
Manny told me to do this.
Yes, I'm going to listen to him.
Oh, look at that. He's in the right spot. I'll be damned. The team has won 3 straight for the 3rd time this season. All 3 of these wins have come against California clubs who were in the playoffs or in playoff contention in the case of San Jose, or in the playoffs and looking to position themselves in the case of LA and Anaheim. They go for a season best 4th in a row tomorrow in Edmonton in the season finale. That would match the streak of 4 wins they reeled off immediately following that Quinn Hughes trade we were talking about in December. And speaking of that game tomorrow, there's a scenario where a Canucks win could bump the Oilers down to the 2nd wild card spot and a first-round matchup against Colorado. It requires the Ducks to win in Nashville, LA to win in Calgary, and if those 2 things happen and the Canucks do get a victory in Edmonton, it would be Kings at 92 points. It would be Ducks at 92 points. It would be Oilers at 91 points and below Utah.
And honestly, not only do I want that for the schadenfreude of Edmonton fans, shout out Oilers Nation.
Yeah.
But Avalanche Oilers in round 1.
Oh, sign me up.
Thank you very much.
Now, the Oilers do win tiebreakers over both Anaheim and LA because of their regulation.
So we need some outright victories.
Exactly. So it has to be an outright victory. If Edmonton were to gain a point, that would be enough. In terms of the win last night, we'd been tracking this as well. It means the Canucks avoid the possibility of 50 regulation losses. They were staring down the barrel of that had they lost in regulation last night. They're on 48 regulation losses. And, Blake, they can still get to 60 standings points with the victory against Edmonton. They are sitting on 58 right now. That's for the good news. Bad news? The home record of 9-27-5 is the worst home records since the 95-96 Ottawa Senators went 8-28-5. That is an expansion era Ottawa Senators team. So they have like the worst home record in 30 years, Blake.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, even if you can say they outperformed themselves on the road, like they should have 14 wins at home, something like that. Like, and no one's saying they got robbed of a playoff spot, but it's just like, how do you get to 9 home wins
out of 41? It's crazy. And they avoided a 7-game home losing streak with the win last night, which would have tied a franchise record set in 2016-17. Team awards. Phil Roenick is the team MVP and best defenseman. We figured that.
Yeah.
Buium got the most exciting. All right.
And I can see it. It's just a smaller sample size, but yeah, I get it.
Drew O'Connor, my guy, was the unsung hero. Besser won the 3 Stars Award and the Daniel and Henrik Community Service Award.
Fitting, yeah.
Explain this one to me. Elias Pettersson gets the Cyrus H. McLean Trophy for leading scorer. But leading scorer is still up for grabs.
In the middle of the game.
Good thing for him, he got 2 assists last night. That gets him over 50 points. But he could still theoretically be caught by Roenick and Besser, who were 2 and 3 points behind him.
Yeah, weird.
Very weird.
Yeah, like that one you can just keep to the end of the season, like announce it on a press release.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Do it at the team exit interview. Here's Elias Pettersson, the Cyrus H. McLean Trophy for the Canucks leading scorer this year.
Like it's going to be really embarrassing if somebody
Well,
has a big
that's
game.
what I'm saying. Like if Roenick goes out, has a 3-point night,
It's
and
so
Elias
Canucks.
is held off the score sheet, then he's the leading scorer. Does Elias have to give him the trophy?
Like now I'm hoping for that. Like that just again to show this organization
Well,
does everything ass backwards.
and
I would
like,
love for this to
I
happen.
understand you want to do it your last home game, but Blake, there are scenarios going forward where you play like 3 straight on the road to end the season. You're going to hand out the leading scorer trophy if it's a neck-and-neck race?
I won't be satisfied if Brock Besser even just ties it. I need a 4-point night out of Brock. I don't want Phil Roenick. I don't want a defenseman to win. I want a 4-point night for Brock Besser.
Incidentally, Roenick's 49 points, which he got with an assist last night, is a career high, so good on him.
Is it really? Okay. Yeah. I mean, he got a lot more opportunity, obviously, with Hughes gone, so you would suspect he would put a good foot forward like that. Or a good paw forward. Like the fine folks at Yellow Dog Brewing. They have for you. They know it's been a bit of a cool spring. It's been a sunny enough spring. Another beautiful day today, but you need cheap beer. It'll keep you warm. Neighborhood Brewing's Way of Life Hazy IPA. The tall cans, the 4-packs, they're on special for the month of April. You should look for it on sale at your private and government liquor stores.
Somebody has just texted me about that Foot pours his heart out speech last night, where he talks about the guy stepping up and he name checks Besser, Roenick, Blueger, Marcus Pettersson. Someone with a letter is missing there.
Someone with a letter.
Someone with a letter. Someone who wears an A on his jersey with number 40 on the back.
Did he mention Jake DeBrusk? I don't think he
He
did.
didn't mention DeBrusk either.
The guy with 2 goals in the game didn't mention him either.
Okay.
Which
So we're just going to say he name checked 4 guys and could have gone on and name checked more, but just stopped it there.
We're going to be
We're
discussing.
not saying he specifically excluded number 40 in his list of guys who are stepping up.
Well, it's probably just coincidence, but the 2 names we're going to be talking about most about possibly moving on from this team are DeBrusk and Pettersson.
So maybe it was just that. He knows that.
He knows the guys that will be here for the future.
Yeah. Speaking of the future, Nick Kiprio says it's unlikely both Rutherford and Alvin come back because, quote, they don't appear to be nearly as aligned today as they were when Alvin first arrived. That much is true. Alvin has sort of been pushed aside, or at least Jim Rutherford has both hands back on the wheel and has for some time, actually, going back to last year and the fiasco with Pettersson. And
Well, there's been times where they've actually contradicted each other a little bit.
That's
in,
it.
In messaging.
That's it.
And then, of course, I worked on this trade. Patrick
Yep.
took a sidestep.
Yes.
He
was too busy to be a part of the biggest trade in franchise history.
Like, I'll say this about the Shanna plan. Like,
And Alvin's now on the road, which he may have anyways been, but, when Dreger talked to us last week about, okay, well, that's a talent evaluator, amateur scout, it doesn't feel like Patrick Alvin has a future in this franchise.
Well, with other prominent presidents, I don't often hear them, undercutting is the wrong word, but sort of overstepping into GM milieu And I feel like Rutherford did that at times.
Well, it was a little bit, I mean, it's a little bit different in this arrangement because this was always a strong, older made NHL president of hockey operations with a first-time GM who he was building up. But you're right. Like, think of the old Leaf structure. Like, Shanahan didn't do any of the hockey. He did the big picture messaging, and Dubas and Lamoriello, and they did the hockey.
And even when Lou left, like, I didn't feel
Dubas did the hockey.
I still don't think Shanahan was mowing Kyle Dubas's lawn here. So
Kiprio says going into last weekend, Rutherford and Alvin were awaiting word from owner Francesco Aquilini about the immediate future. And it appeared Aquilini had yet to give either of them assurances as he continues to weigh all his options. And look, that's appropriate from Francesco's seat. This was a calamity. This is just about the worst the franchise has ever been outside of its early expansion era and a season or two here or there along the last 55.
Yeah.
And Rutherford is the guy most responsible for it. He's your president of hockey operations. He makes the ultimate decisions. So I get it. Drance reports that the money committed to Foote and Alvin, 2 years remaining on their contracts, won't dictate Vancouver's decision-making process, which is good.
You would hope. I mean, like the fact that needs to be reported on is disturbing. But
Dollywall's been talking about, it's easier to, make the call from our seat when you're not paying the freight, which is true, but cost of doing business. When you hire the wrong guys, exactly, you pay the piper. You pay your dumb tax. I realize that rich guys sometimes have a pride issue at stake on the dumb tax, but if you want to win and you want to fix mistakes, it costs you money.
Yeah,
certainly they're familiar with paying money to get out of mistakes.
There's a lot of business rules that are thrown out the window in professional sports. And one of those is you don't fire guys left with term. Yes, you do. If it's detrimental to the team, you fire said guys.
And we mentioned that NHL agent poll from The Athletic a few days ago about the Canucks being voted the worst run organization. They were also voted the second hardest organization to deal with. And that's not great for Patrick Alvin, and that's not great for Emily Castengay, the AGM, because they're the two ones on the front lines with agents. Castengay does the contract negotiations, or at least so we were told. And Alvin, as he has said many times in the past, I'm talking to his agent. So when the agents deem you the second hardest organization to deal with, that is not great news for those on the front lines. And we'll see if there are changes this offseason. Look, I think this is working towards a scenario where Patrick Alvin is gone, where Adam Foote is gone, where there are changes in the front office and to the scouting department as well. That way you can at least sell some sort of fresh slate or turnover, or somebody was held responsible for this season. We'll see. Playoffs are getting going, of course, this weekend, and the Nation Network is your ultimate playoff headquarters. From expert shows and deep dive articles to live social updates, analytics, and fantasy insights. Cover every moment here at the Nation Network, whether it's epic goals, big hits, or game-changing plays. We've got you covered. One network every moment. You can tune into the DFO Rundown, the Sheet with Jeff Merrick, on their YouTube channels and beyond for the NHL at-large playoff coverage. We'll be talking some playoffs as well, but of course, as always, focused on the Vancouver Canucks and their off-season activity. Okay, speaking of those playoffs, we are set in the Eastern Conference. How about this, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So it's Carolina-Ottawa in the 1 versus 8 matchup. Of course, the Hurricanes have home ice advantage throughout. We talked about that Battle of Pennsylvania yesterday. That's the second series in the Metropolitan. Moving over to the Atlantic, you've got Buffalo-Boston. Love that. Old Adams division.
Old Adams division is great.
Remember when they had the two small rinks, the Odd and the Garden? You had to go in and play those guys with all the rough and tumble customers. The other bit of theater on this series, Jeremy Jacobs and the Jacobs family that owns the Boston Bruins. They are Buffalonians, long history in the city of Buffalo. In fact, I think there was a stat at one point why they hadn't made a trade in forever because they weren't going to help each other out. So Buffalo, Boston, and then Tampa, Montreal, where the Lightning will have home ice advantage after the Habs lose last night to Philly.
Two teams that play an interesting, fun brand of hockey.
That could
too.
be a very good series with lots of
aesthetically.
goals.
Yeah, it could be a lot of fun. I don't mind those matchups at all.
Yep. The Columbus Blue Jackets run came up short. As we know, Alex Ovechkin of Washington got a win versus them last night in what could be the all-time leading goal scorer in the NHL, his final game. I'm sure you've heard of this already. It did not sit well with Columbus head coach Rick Bowness, the former Canucks assistant. He had a thing or two to say in the postgame. Here's Bones.
Rick, you've been a part of a lot of games and a lot of seasons. Have you ever been part of something that's as frustrating as this has been down the stretch?
No. And you know what? All you got to do is look at the stat sheet. 3 hits, 23 giveaways. Like, I don't know if I'm back, but if I'm back, I'm changing this culture. These guys, they don't care. Losing is not important enough to them. It doesn't bother them. Like, how can you go out and play like that? Should have done this about a month ago. But this is why we are where we are. This is why we're out of the playoffs. That kind of effort. Losing, you have to hate losing. I don't care if it's a meaningless game. I don't care. Show up and compete. 3 hits, 23 giveaways. What else you want to know?
You reached them for so long after you got here. How did it stop? Where did it stop?
Because it got tough. Because it got hard. Like we talked about after the Olympic break. It's going to get harder. So everything's good as long as it's going their way. And now it gets tough, we don't want to battle back. And that's what's happened over the last a couple of weeks. That's all that's happened. We're going to change that. If I'm back, I don't know if I'm back. Don and I will talk. We'll get to that. But man, oh man, some of those guys are so lucky the season's over and there's no practice tomorrow. Anyways, and there's no more games. What else you want to know?
I think even...
That's our boy.
I can't believe he's that emotional, but then I went back and looked.
He's an emotional guy.
2-8-1 in their last. Like, they were one of the great second half stories that we've talked about. We talked about how so many teams went on these crazy long runs. Columbus was one of them. But 2-8-1 when, as he says, it got really hard.
And by the way, great questions there. I believe that's Aaron Portzline. But the follow-up was fantastic. You reached them for so long. What happened? It got tough.
And that's it's exactly
great
the right
questions,
question.
great answers. Rick has been unfailingly honest with us in the past. I think a part of that is a guy wondering whether that was his last game coaching in the NHL.
That's fair.
But I think a large part of it is authentic about the culture there in Columbus and how he came so close to changing it and getting that team over the top, and yet didn't happen because of the way they played down the stretch. I think part of that is because there was a rant in Winnipeg, if you remember. Was it his last year in Winnipeg? I think part of it is Rick having trouble coming to grips with these multimillionaires who do let losing roll off their back a little. I mean, when Rick Bowness first started coaching in the NHL, and remember, he goes way, way back, the early 80s here,
Mm-hmm.
you know, losing had consequences in terms of you may lose your NHL job. You may lose your livelihood, and you didn't have millions of dollars in the bank. So, look, I hope he's back because, you know, there are certain people who I think the NHL is better with them in the league and with them in front of microphones, and Rick Bowness is one of them.
They went 19. So the basis of Aaron Portzline's follow-up, they went 19-3-3, Matt.
It was extraordinary.
And then turned around and lost the bulk of their game. Like, how are you that hot for that long?
Well, they lost Severson and another defenseman, if I'm not mistaken, and that really exposed them in a way where, they lost Severson and was it Brandon Smith? There was a couple of big injuries for Columbus down the stretch that I know took some of the bite out of their team because Severson was playing very well, and then there was another guy.
Well, they lost a bunch of close games to start it, too. They lost 3 close games. You wonder if somebody caved there, too. Somebody that was participating there, that contributing, that just all of a sudden caved. Like we saw in the Canucks, Matt, a bunch of players gave up at some point in the middle part of the season for the Vancouver Canucks when it got loose. And you wouldn't want any of those players on your team. Oh, didn't the Canucks trade somebody there?
Connor Garland.
Right.
And this from Adam Kirsenblatt. And, of course, Garland has term left here. But remember, he had 4 goals in his first 3 games, and we were sitting there going, where was that Connor Garland? You just flat quit on the Canucks towards the end. He scores just once and gets just 3 points in the final 18 games. Averages down to 13:57 of ice time.
It's too bad, Connor.
It was Mathieu Olivier was the other guy who got injured for Columbus down the stretch, who was playing well for them, and they missed alongside Severson. Okay, what else do we have here? Oh, that's for the Western Conference playoffs. So the only series that is set in stone is Dallas, Minnesota. We knew that. And, of course, the Stars with home ice advantage. The rest of the series remain up in the air. Utah is an 85% probability to play Vegas, 15% to play Edmonton. So Utah can only play Vegas or Edmonton. Colorado is a 59% probability to play LA, 36% probability to play Anaheim, and a 5% probability to play Edmonton. We talked about that.
Because they're writing off that Canuck game. Let's turn that on its ear,
that's
Vancouver.
Right. I mean, Vancouver obviously is going to be a big underdog in Edmonton tomorrow.
Yeah.
Vegas cannot play Edmonton in the opening round. The Oilers could face the Avalanche, the Ducks, the Kings, or Utah in the first round. And can they play Utah? Yes. Yes, they can play Utah. We had that 15%. There you go. There's all the breakdown of what are the most probable series here in the Western Conference. Boy, I do not like LA's chances against Colorado.
No.
Edmonton and Anaheim could be a lot of fun. There could be a lot of goals in that series. Nobody wants to see LA and Edmonton again. Please, no. Utah, Edmonton has a little bit of juice. So does Vegas, Anaheim, if you ask me. And then, of course, oh my goodness, if Edmonton and Colorado got together in the first round, giddy up. Love to see that.
Any combination of the Avs, Oilers, and Knights and Ducks. Yes. Those are the 4 fun teams.
Here's the other thing to look for, Canucks fans, in the final 2 days of the NHL schedule. As it stands right now, the San Jose second-round pick that they sent to Vancouver as part of the Kiefer Sherwood trade would be 42nd overall. But San Jose has 2 games left. They play a back-to-back here. They're in Chicago tonight. They're in Winnipeg tomorrow.
Oof.
If San Jose were to lose both of those games, there is a world where St. Louis, Winnipeg, who they go head-to-head with, and Florida would all leapfrog them. And there's a chance that pick would improve to 39th overall from 42nd.
Wow. Well, that's pretty different. And then the Canucks would really own from like 25 to 39.
They would have 4 picks in the first 39, including, of course, 1, 2, or 3, plus where that Minnesota pick winds up, plus 33. We know they're locked into that. That's the first pick of the second round, worst record. And then potentially the San Jose pick at 39 if they were to lose out and these other teams, Florida, Winnipeg, and Chicago. Florida, Winnipeg, and St. Louis.
10 years' time, 39th overall is going to be a first-round pick with NHL expansion. My goodness.
Yeah, because those teams have games left too. St. Louis is in Utah tonight, so you're rooting for the Blues in that one. Sorry, that's tomorrow. St. Louis is in Utah tomorrow, so you're rooting for the Blues in that one. You're rooting for the Panthers, who are home tonight against the Red Wings, and then you're rooting for Winnipeg tomorrow against San Jose. All right, let's get to our menu. It's brought to you by Greta. Fantastic spot to catch all the games, home and away, to pregame, to postgame. They have an outstanding private section of the bar that works so well for your next planned party, whatever that may be. They have a private bar back there to suit you. They got screens abundant. They have the arcade throughout the bar, and of course, an approachable menu of street food. Try the poutine. It serves 2. For more info to book your event, go to gretabar.com, Greta 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. Who we got coming up here?
We've got David Pagnotta.
Oh, that's right. David Pagnotta is coming up. We'll talk to the NHL Insider from the fourth period, the DFO Insider, on all the Canucks particulars, Rutherford, Alvin, Foote, the front office, Ryan Johnson. He's got word on Teddy Blueger. Also talks some Jake DeBrusk, Elias Pettersson with him. Then later in the program, we'll talk to Tyson Cole. Tyson Cole of Canucks Army. You may have heard Tyson and Dave Hall have kicked off a prospects podcast here as part of the Nation Network and on the Canucks Army YouTube feed. Every Wednesday, they'll be looking at prospects. These are Canucks prospects that are in-house. These are draft prospects, but it's a perfect time to talk prospects. We do it virtually every day here on Segarra Price. So Tyson will join us later in the program. We'll talk about this Major League Baseball canard to Vancouver. I don't know why the mayor would be out there so full force on this.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a serious conversation, to be honest. We'll tell you why coming up
yeah,
later.
And oftentimes this is what lacks at City Hall, right? Like somebody with a little sports know-how. We've seen this in Surrey where they've talked about building remember at one point they were going to build a 60,000-seat outdoor hockey arena?
Right. And you know what? It had me thinking a little bit about U.S. news coverage, and that just because a politician says something, do you have to cover it?
Well, that's it. And that's why we chose not to cram it in yesterday's show. It broke as we were sort of prepping yesterday's show, and I was like, I want to hear more about this. Well, I got to dig into this a little more.
I wasn't so sure that the debate would actually take hold here, but whether or not it's viable. People wanted to talk about it, so we're talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, we thought about poll question today, but honestly, anybody who knows a single, no.
It's a non-zero chance, but it's just at that
exactly.
level.
So we'll get into that. We'll also talk C's, J's, Mariners as well. Hockey, Goldeneyes got a big win last night. Got to keep winning. Soccer, Canadian women's team in action, and more World Cup tickets released here for Vancouver if you have FU money. All that's coming up. Time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. I got another win last night. San Jose Sharks got a win last night.
I got a win too. Got my DeBrusk goal.
Did you? Oh, right.
Yeah.
You got 2 goals. Let me go first then.
Okay.
I don't normally do this. This goes against my philosophy when betting on sports. But Vegas clinches the division tonight with a single point. They're home versus Seattle. I don't normally lay big money for small payouts, but VGK to win or get beyond regulation, that cinches the deal for them. It's minus 650 to win 100, but you've got 2 outs here. The only thing that beats you is a crack and win in regulation. So give me either the win for Vegas or a game that gets beyond regulation. It pays out.
In order to help that draft pick, let's combine efforts here. As much as I love Macklin Celebrini, also like Connor Bedard, and the Blackhawks victory helps the Canucks project there. So let's go with that. Plus 105, the Hawks to beat the Sharks and begin a drop in the Sharks standing.
Yes. Tired of waiting till the end of the game to get paid? Ready to move on to the next puck drop? That's why Bet365, an official partner of the NHL, has 3-goal early payout. If the team you're riding goes up 3 goals at any point in the game, they'll pay your bet out early. Hockey moves fast, and now with 3-goal early payout, there's one less thing you have to wait around for. Bet365. Download the app, see what early payout's all about. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. David Pagnotta, next. So here's some price from the historic wall center.
And this segment brought to you by your Pacific Toyota dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid. And the best thing I can say about the Prius, or best advice I can give you on the Prius hybrid, go take one for a test drive, because whatever your assumptions are, you need to see it in reality. You need to drive it.
I drove past one in the parking garage here today.
Yeah.
Gentleman coming the other way. Maybe involved in this big mining conference that's going on.
You have to remind yourself what this new one looks like, redesigned. The performance is spectacular. It's going to blow you away. And of course, 72 kilometers of electric range. You could drive this as an electric vehicle for the most part until that road trip where you need the extra range of the gas tank as well. Go check it out right now, because Red Tag Day deals are on until May. ShopToyota.ca.
As we welcome in David Pagnotta, editor-in-chief of the Fourth Period, DFO Insider Edition, with our buddy Irf Ghaffar, because we are getting down to brass tacks here, and we want to know where everybody is going to wind up. David, how are you? Good to see you again. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, good to see you guys. What a season, huh? Wow. Okay. Well, should be an interesting off season, that's for sure.
Dave, they won 3 in a row.
Hey, man, there is no quit down the stretch in these Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah.
So we will give them that. They played
one more to go. Let's see if they can do it.
Yeah, and maybe a chance to spoil the Edmonton Oilers a little bit here. So we'll see where that goes tomorrow. All right. Let's start at the top of hockey operations. Jim Rutherford, what are you hearing there?
Yeah, it sounds like every indication anyway that I've been given is that he will be back next season in same role. Nothing's going to change. And I know, look, a lot of people, coaching staff and others up top in management have 2 years left on their contracts. I haven't been able to definitively confirm if he has 2 or not, either way, or if next season is his last. But either way, every indication that I've been given is that Jim Rutherford will be back next season and will continue to steer this ship as they dive even deeper into their rebuild.
But the decisions on Adam Foote and Patrick Allvin, when do those decisions get made? Because time is of the essence.
Yeah, to a degree. Timing certainly plays a factor. I don't believe a decision has been made definitively yet on either of them from Rutherford either. I think they're going to wait until the season wraps, go through all their exit meetings, go through all of that, and then make a determination. Now, initially, after trade deadline for the last few weeks, the notion has been, the possibility of a change at the GM post as Rutherford eventually transitions out, have somebody come in there that follows that mold that's been put in place with this now newfound rebuild. And that there'd be a little longer of a leash for the head coach, given the circumstances and given where the team is at. You're going through this rebuild even further. You're probably moving out another, couple of pieces this offseason. We'll see what happens with Jake DeBrusk. We'll see what happens with, Elias Pettersson and so on, and some of the pending UFAs. But if you're going through all of that and you're making additional changes and you're bringing in extra youth because you want the core to kind of start growing together, does it make sense to make a coaching change now? And I think the future of Manny Malhotra in Abbotsford plays a factor because I know there is outside interest. I don't think teams have approached yet, but I would be shocked if a couple of them don't, at the very least, to explore that possibility of talking to Manny Malhotra for one of their potential head coaching vacancies in some of the other teams. And I think there is a bit of a correlation with respect to Malhotra's future with the organization as well as Adam Foote's future with the organization, but no determination to this point has been made, as far as I know. Although it wouldn't shock me if Foote sticks around. Again, 2 more years on the contract for him and the staff. As you're going through this rebuild, you really want to be paying up that much and that many people to sit around and do nothing? I don't know if that really makes sense for the organization at this stage.
There was word this week about the scouts, David. Elliot Friedman saying he thinks all of the scouts are out of contract at the end of the year. What do you know about the rest of the Canucks front office? AGM's down to scouts.
That would be a house cleaning.
Yeah, and the possibility of changes there.
Yeah, and I think that's where the conversations that are going to take place after the season are going to really dictate the future of all of that department. Alvin with 2 more years on it, like the coaching staff. Jim has to decide, who the GM is going to be. Is there a succession plan in place that gets at least started this season or this summer, excuse me? And if not, who are the appropriate scouts to come in and stick around long term? Like, everybody signed till the end of this, till July. So obviously they're going into the draft with the same mindset. And clearly, the individuals that are in place are going to want to make an argument to stick around. But in terms of their futures, I think it ties into whatever this plan is going to be in place moving forward that Jim Rutherford is going to implement, and then eventually hand the keys over to whoever is going to start steering this ship after him. Again, a lot of those determinations are going to be made after the regular season, which is tomorrow at the end of it. But, clearly there's, you go through these types of changes when you're at the top of the food chain. You start mapping out your plan. And then you have those conversations to see if this plan is going to be solidified. Does this make sense? Does it align with these conversations that I'm having? And then you adjust on the fly. You make adjustments based on different recommendations and so on and so forth. They're going to be at that stage once the season wraps. It's going to give them more of an opportunity. Once all the cleanouts are done and the exit meetings are done with the players, that's when a lot of that gets properly defined. And I think there is an opportunity to revamp part of the off-ice departments within the Canucks organization with respect to scouting and perhaps some of the managerial side as well, whether with respect to again Alvin and the AGMs that are in place.
What about Ryan Johnson, David? What do you know of his future, either with the Canucks or any kind of outside interest?
I think so. I think some of the outside interest has been jumbled a little bit in terms of the verbiage and the wording kind of used to it. I think there is, there are some teams that are curious about his future. I don't know if a definitive approach, a formal request to interview him for any GM vacancies have officially been made. I know about we know about the Nashville reports and all that. But I think that was more of a casual conversation and maybe a broken telephone scenario that came out with respect to him, or Nashville requesting definitive permission or formal permission to speak with him. I don't know if that happened. I don't get the sense that did, but I do get the sense that some teams have asked the Canucks, hey, how's he doing in the organization? Where's he at? How's the relationship going? So I think there is curiosity from outside the club as to his future with the team, because some teams are making their own internal decisions. But all that to say that it certainly sounds like Rutherford and company value what he brings to the table within the organization. Certainly been there for some time now, and that they want him to stick around. So we'll see how his role gets redefined if it does. I believe it will. I believe there will be some modifications to his responsibilities, enhancements to his responsibilities. To what extent, though, I still think it's a little premature to suggest one thing or another with respect to what additional responsibilities will be, put on his plate. They got to figure all this stuff out first before they start doing that.
Reading into what you're saying, are you suggesting that Ryan Johnson is unlikely to be a GM replacement for Patrick Alvin, that would need to be a more resumed person?
I don't know about that definitively either. Okay. I think there is, like I said, I believe Rutherford and company value him in this organization. Mm-hmm. And I know there's, some suggestions that maybe Alvin gets moved up to a different role and Johnson comes in as GM. I'm sure that's still a possibility. But it may be an option. It may be an internal option that, Rutherford and ownership are kind of, evaluating. But I'm sure there are a number of different options that are put forward for them to kind of look at. I think it's one of them. I don't think it's the only one. And at the same time, again, I don't believe they've made a decision as to when they plan on executing whichever option they move forward with, be it now, later this offseason, or, next summer.
Can we move on to players?
Let's move on to players, because you have some information on Teddy Blueger, David.
Yeah, so he's one of the pending unrestricted free agents, that are out there. We know Evander Kane not going to be back with the club next season as well. Blueger, there is interest from the Canucks to keep him, which is why they didn't trade him at the deadline. They had a price. It wasn't met. they wanted to hold on to him and see if they can convince him to stick around beyond this season. I believe he will go to July 1 to explore the market. I believe I don't think he's closing the door on the Canucks by any stretch, but I think where he's at, where in his career, where the Canucks are at in their rebuild, I think he wants to just understand his options before making a commitment. So door's not shut, but we talked about options. He'd like to see what his are as well.
Jake DeBrusk,
32 years old this summer, has played for a cup team. You can understand him maybe not wanting to hang around for the early part of a rebuild.
This was the risk of not trading him at the deadline, though. If he walks, my goodness. Jake DeBrusk and Elias Pettersson, bigger fish, more complicated fish. What do you think they're just waiting for the exit meetings to flesh out exactly where they're at, or do you have a sense of a pulse there? And what the Canucks might do with those two players?
Yeah, I don't think anything's changed from DeBrusk's perspective. I think he's going to continue to be open to a move, perhaps encourage it. Maybe not necessarily this week at the exit meetings, but maybe a little bit later. Let the agent handle that. But I think nothing has changed from the perspective of being open to a change of scenery, moving on to a contender, and going from there. So I think that's fairly defined and already understood. Elias Pettersson, a little trickier, a little complicated. It's got $11 million price tag per season. The Canucks don't want to eat on that. I don't think anything has changed in that regard. But I do anticipate conversations happening this summer involving Petey. Whether that something starts to move the needle, I don't know. If I knew how to do that, I'd probably be up for the job. But I don't think they fully figured that out yet either. But I do think they have options, or at least an understanding as to which teams would like to explore this a little bit more this summer. I think a lot of due diligence was made leading up to the trade deadline, and I think those conversations will begin at some point later on once the summer gets going. But I think between the two, I think everybody knows what direction is likely for Jake DeBrusk. For Elias Pettersson, I think the preference is potentially to make a move, but a lot of complications surrounding it, primarily dollar-wise. Canucks don't want to eat. How can you maximize a return? And what are the definitive options that are going to be available in the summer? Because this might not necessarily be something that, if it does happen, happens around the draft. This might be something that may happen in July after the free agent pool gets completely thinned out.
Yeah. If we can just circle back on managers, and just out of the blue here, David, I understand if you haven't heard anything, but Ron Francis worked for Jim Rutherford in Carolina. Tom Fitzgerald worked for Jim Rutherford in Pittsburgh. Is there any chance any of these guys with Jim Rutherford ties ancestrally wind up with the Vancouver Canucks?
I don't know if that's been given a consideration yet. I would be a little bit surprised on Ron Francis's side. Quite frankly,
didn't end well there, huh?
No, it didn't. Fitzgerald, though, if they do start to look for outside options, I would not be surprised if they at least have a conversation there. He's made some good moves in Jersey. I think the whole thing obviously didn't work, and time was running out. And I don't even think it had anything to do with the whole Quinn Hughes situation. Like, they tried, they weren't willing to pay that premium. I don't think you can throw that on the GM for not wanting to cough up what Minnesota did to make that happen, based on where the Devils are at. I think they've got a strong pool. They've got a strong roster that needs some obvious adjustments, but they've got a strong pool coming up. Obviously, they have Nemec, they have Saleev that's going to be making his way over to North America this summer, among others. So they've got a solid foundation that's there, and I think teams like Vancouver would look at that and see the value. Again, I don't know if they've reached out yet. I'd be a little bit surprised if it's happened yet, but it wouldn't shock me if Rutherford does explore that possibility, because of the pre-existing relationship. It just strengthens the confidence in terms of making a change and bringing somebody else in. Although I do know Nashville as well wants to talk to him, so I don't know if that's happened yet. But yeah, there's going to be competition. I'd be surprised if Toronto doesn't at least have a conversation. They're talking about doing all of their due diligence on their end and trying to have a blanket over the market, well, it would make sense to at least have that conversation with him. So we'll see if that does take place. But
I was going to say, the Leafs having all these openings, the Leafs it's sucking the air out of the entire process for everybody else, isn't it? Because everyone's going to wait and see what happens. As per usual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's sort of, because, Toronto's in an interesting position. I've talked to some prospective candidates, and some of whom believe that a rebuild is in order for the Maple Leafs. And a couple others have suggested you can retool. It's going to take some time or some headaches, but you can retool and kind of get this team pivoted in the right direction for next season again. With the mandate in Toronto being retool, get to the playoffs next year, I think it's canceling out a lot of the candidates that would look at this going, a rebuild is necessary for the long-term success of the franchise. MLSC doesn't want to go down that road, not yet anyway. They want to retool, get to the playoffs, and try to convince Austin Matthews to stick around even longer. We'll see if that works.
Yeah. Gillis going to get the gig there, David?
I got some pushback there.
Okay.
I think there was it's an obvious right out of the gate, big time name, executive, a lot of history, a lot of experience, but I've gotten a little bit of pushback as to whether or not he genuinely has interest in being president, for example, of that club. Now, if they turn around and say, we'll give you $10 million a season, maybe he would change his mind.
Yeah.
But I think it would take something of pretty substantial significance to make that fit from his side.
Yeah. Marvelous stuff, Mr. Pagnotta. Thank you again for making time for us here. You want to read him on the fourth period where he's the editor-in-chief, of course. Watch and listen with Irf Gafar on the DFO Insider. Appreciate this, David.
You got it, boys. We'll see you.
Sick Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center.
This segment brought to you by the fine folks at Pizza, and they've wanted us to make sure you know that they've got the estimated time of delivery guarantee. If you miss it, your order's free. They've wanted to make sure that you know about the Volcano Dipper. You can order in the middle of the pie, the creamy garlic sauce. If you're a creamy garlic sauce lover, you're absolutely going to love it. But I'm going off the board a little bit here, Matt, because on the Twitter feed for Pizza right now, they are advertising something called pre-rolls.
Familiar with those.
They come in a sort of a cone-shaped box. They're rolled.
Mm-hmm.
Do not light them. They are already cooked. But it's a pizza that's been rolled up, easier to eat, a little less messy. Pizza pre-rolls.
It's going to work in this market.
I think so.
5 days away from 420, y'all. Used to be a big thing here in Vancouver. But talk to me about that volcanic dipper of creamy garlic
Get the
sauce.
pre-rolls now for a limited time from Pizza.
Tyson Cole is an associate editor with Canucks Army. He is also the host of the new Blackfish Prospects show on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. You can check out him and Dave Hall talking prospects every Wednesday. The second episode just dropped, so there it is, available to you. There they are. Look at these handsome guys. He's got a fresh haircut. He's heading to Vegas for his stag. Everything is coming up, Tyson Cole.
Never has there been a better time to talk about the Canucks and the young players, right? This is good timing, Tyson.
Absolutely, and that's why we love the timing of the show, right? Like, at this point of the season, nobody really cares about the games. Yes, they're winning down the stretch, but everybody's got their eye on the future and what's to come and everything, and they've got a lot of picks. And so Dave and I just thought it was the best time to launch it. And I don't know, everybody loves when Dave goes on a show and talks prospects and everything. Yep. So, I'm just happy to ride on his coattails.
Yeah.
Also,
very good partner.
Launching a hockey podcast for dummies book. It does not say start hockey podcast in April. That's
Not
generally,
usually.
but in this case,
the
does
timing
work.
is just absolutely perfect. I mean, Blake and I have said we talk something prospect on the show every day now, and have been doing it for the last month. So very well done. Congratulations on the launch. We look forward to seeing what you and Dave come up with on a weekly basis, my friend. You covered the game last night, though, and I read your Cole's notes. Let's just start with the fact that this team is finishing strong. I think it says something about some of these players, right? That we've got guys who are busting their tail in these meaningless games down the stretch.
Absolutely, and that's something we haven't seen all season, right? Like, it seems like at points the players have died on the coach and everything. They weren't getting the message across, and it was translating on the ice. They weren't playing well. They weren't connecting as a unit and everything. But now everything just kind of changed, after the trade deadline, and especially after they got mathematically eliminated. Everybody seems to be playing a little bit more loose, and now you're seeing that, like, they've won 3 straight games, and they're all against, like, at the time, San Jose was still going for the playoffs. Anaheim and LA are still both fighting for playoff positioning in the Pacific Division. So it's impressive that they're able to do this. And now I don't know whether, are these teams taking the Canucks a little too light? I'm not sure. And I wouldn't blame them if they are, but they're obviously not getting the results that they need. And Canucks are playing a little bit of spoiler, which is exciting. And I mean, the emotion you're seeing on the ice too, like Curtis Douglas's goal was obviously amazing. Everybody was super happy for him on the ice, but like Teddy Blueger dropped the gloves against Radko Gudas, and then Buium takes a rough hit last night against the Kings, and Phil Hronek drops the gloves with Matthews Joseph. Everyone seems to be playing as a team, and that's just so nice to see as they lead into the offseason.
The schedule makers made sure that the Canucks didn't have any garbage games, actually. Like, the LA Kings go into that game thinking we can still have home ice advantage in the playoffs if everything goes our way in the out-of-town scoreboard. So, they are playing teams for the last 2 weeks that had something to play for it. And if you were going to take the Canucks lightly, you probably could have started doing that about 3 months ago, 4 months ago even, and that would have been understandable. Buium's shift, if you will, from Buium, getting people very excited. He's been a little less prolific points-wise than I would have hoped him to be, even in this rookie season of his. But it's shifts like that will keep you coming back and wondering what he could turn into.
Yeah, I mean, we just saw it firsthand with Quinn, right? And so everybody's going to make the comparisons, and that's a little too high to shoot for, in my opinion. I believe some of the comparables that actually make sense are like a Josh Morrissey or like a Morgan Riley in his prime, but a little bit more shifty, a little bit more of today's NHLer. But he's so exciting to watch, and he's such a good interview. I've had the talks with him and everything. And I mean, the Fight Club, like, he just seems like a great guy to be around, infectious in the locker room, and it's translating on the ice. And what I've liked recently is everyone just is playing more loose. Like, games don't really matter right now. So go out and try something, go out and try it. And that's how you're going to learn not to make the mistakes in the future, because there were a ton of times last night where Buium tried something, he'd get the puck knocked off his stick, then the Kings are heading the other way. And like, now he's learned, okay, can't do it that way, but then he has that success. That neutral zone weave through in the first period, that was fun to see. Everyone was oohing and on in the building. And then you could see it was kind of building towards something. Then he obviously had that shift, and he took Quentin Byfield on, like, took the contact from him, who was without a stick, right? And then he makes the perfect give and go play with Höglander. It was really exciting to see, and that's what everyone wants to see out of the young, promising defenseman like that.
Absolutely. The team's most exciting player, as voted by the fans. And also, Blake and I were talking, we love seeing him beside Hronek, because we think that is the Vancouver Canucks top pair going forward. We also want to see him quarterback power play, and we're seeing snippets of that as well. You also mentioned Jake DeBrusk in your wrap. It may be for the eyes of other teams right now, Tyson, but it's nice to see DeBrusk close strongly as well.
Yeah, and just some like insider locker room stuff. He is like the best guy to talk to. Like, he's always so open and honest, and so like I've developed a really good relationship with him. So, when I see him doing well, like, I'm happy for him, right? I had a conversation with him, and he was like, "Oh, like it would be it would be, my goal is to hit 20 goals. You know, like it's been a tough year and everything, but personally, my goal is to hit 20 goals, and I'll be, you know, I'm not going to be happy about how the season went, but that can be, you know, a little feather in my cap the rest of the way with how the team is and everything. And now he's at 23. Like at the time, I think he was at like 13 or 14, and I didn't think it was possible. And then boom, like we know how streaky he is and how good he is around the net front. And I don't know if he wants to be through a rebuild. He hasn't told me anything like that, but you know, I can't imagine he wants to stick around. You know, he's kind of in that age where he probably wants to win, and he comes from Boston, who's always winning, right? And if you look at his contract, like $5.5 million is not that bad with a rising cap. Like I think it's actually quite a bargain, right? 23 goals on this Canucks team, and what he does around the net front, like put him on Colorado. Their power play for how good they are is god awful. And so you put him on that top power play at the net front, I bet you they're a lot better with the man advantage. And so I think there is going to be an appetite if Jake does decide that he wants to move on, but that'll obviously be up to him with his no move clause.
Yep, goals per minute too for Jake, because he's not generally a 20-minute guy.
We were talking about it earlier this week. There will be a team that flames out of the playoffs and identifies its power play as a reason why, and they're going to look in the offseason and go, who can help us on the power play? And Jake DeBrusk will be sitting right there. I believe Dave has written on Kirill Kudryavtsev recently. I saw you name check him as well. Tyson, a word or two on the first games this season from the young Russian defenseman. Playing the right side, too, is offhand.
Yeah, I mean, that's something he's done in Abbotsford quite a bit, just dating back to last year. He can play on both sides, so that's something good for him in terms of making the NHL. Like, hey, I can play on either side, and I don't know what his projection is. I was talking to Drance, and he's like, oh, well, how many left shot under 6 foot defensemen are there in the NHL that don't play on power play one? And it's like, not that many, like Sam Girard, but so who knows what his true projection is. But I mean, if you watched him last night, like he made a bunch of plays just in the first period alone that I noticed, like good plays on the back check. He whacked the stick puck off out of the crease there with a stick in midair. He was directing traffic with DPD. So he was taking control of the defensive pairings, and I didn't think he got caved in his own end at all. He got his second assist. What happens with the Curtis Douglas goal? Does he get that puck? Does Douglas get the puck? Because that was his first.
You saw that in half is what you do.
I think to the victors go the puck, the goal scorer gets, especially how elated Douglas was. I mean, it was 41 games. He was
also. I'm pretty sure Kudryavtsev is going to get another NHL point. I'm not so sure.
Well, he did last night.
Getting goals. Yes, yeah.
He did last night, so maybe he keeps that puck. But anyway, he made a really good. He was getting pressured, and he banked the puck off the wall, went past the King player, picked it up, and made the outlet pass. He's got it, you know. And it's crazy that a 7th round pick can make all these plays, and he's flashing. And Adam Foote post game last night said that if he didn't get injured in Abbotsford, I bet you he would have played a lot more games up here. So, you know, who knows what happens with the coach? If he stays, then he'll probably get some more runway next year. But if he doesn't and Manny comes up, that's been Manny's guy in Abbotsford. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot more of Kirill Kudryavtsev if he plays the way he did last night.
That's a great shout. And just let me say, Dave Hall did the math here. There have been 6 7th-round defensemen since 2019 who have played NHL games, and not a lot of games. So to make the NHL as a 7th-round defenseman and play any kind of games is massive victory, and the best is yet to come for Kirill.
All of the young players seem to be a little energized here in the last couple of weeks, and it's had an effect on the older players as well. But you know, I've been noticing Verlander a little bit more, and I think they're all trying to end on a good note so that they are, you know, giving that good taste in the mouth to the organization for next season, right? And good on them. I mean, you know, these are we joke about big summers for players in their mid-20s, but these actually are big summers for these young players. Like, they actually do grow. They actually do put on weight easily. Like, they can manipulate their bodies a hell of a lot easier than the 28-year-old guy can.
Yeah, and you made a good point. It's so important for them to finish the year strong because, like, I'm just going to use Zeev as an example. He's been a winner everywhere, right? Like, he's not used to losing this much. He had that one season he told me about in the USNTDP where they were the worst team, but then they bounced back and won the championship. So It's not like he's used to losing for a consistent stretch of time. And that's all he did. Like, after that 4-game winning streak, like it was brutal. It was bleak. And he wasn't really creating much offense on his own. And now I don't fault him too much for that. Like, look at the forwards he's playing with. Like, how much help did he really get? How many times did he set up a forward and they couldn't finish one of his passes? And so, like, the point totals could have been there. But, I mean, he has that sweet play last night. DPD scores again. Like, these guys have a ton of confidence. And going into the season, going into the offseason, finishing strong like that is going to be so important for them in their development.
All right, give us the tease. What's on the Blackfish podcast episode 2 that dropped today?
Well, it should be out now by the time you're listening to it. Go check it out on the Canucks Army YouTube. We had the big debate, the debate everybody wants to hear. And I know the first one, we it was our first show. We had to talk about Canucks prospects and everything. So I apologize for that. But we had the debate of McKenna versus Stenberg today.
Yep.
And it was a good one.
Seems appropriate.
Me and Dave broke it down. We broke down every aspect of a player's game, skating, shooting, passing, puck control, defense, what they need to improve on. And then we who has the edge in each of these categories? And then that's how we kind of determined who we would take if the Canucks had the first overall pick. But we went in depth about that. And obviously still, like, Braden Coots is in the lineup or in the playoffs still. Alco, Sherratt, there's a bunch of guys. And then, so it was really good second episode with Dave. It was funny. I got a little producer's note after, and apparently my mic was too close to my face, so you could hear the nose jets. You could hear me breathing the whole time. And So apologies for that in advance if you listen to it, but I just won't breathe next time. My bad.
You will get there. Some of us still suffer from that. Makes a ton of sense. Start talking Canucks prospects, then move on to first overall. Want to hear the debate on number 3? If they do land number 3, who you guys like there? Check out the Canucks Blackfish podcast each and every Wednesday on the Canucks Army YouTube channel with Dave Hall and Tyson Cole. You behave yourself in Vegas, okay? Avoid Zach Galifianakis lookalikes. Avoid tigers in bathrooms. Avoid Mike Tyson at all costs, all right?
Well, I'll do my best. The only thing is I don't know what we're doing. My friends have kind of planned everything for me, so I don't know what I'll be wearing, what I'll be embarrassed with. But I just want to say one more thing. I appreciate coming on again. This is the first time I've done Sakaris and Price with Blake, with Price.
Right.
Oh, really?
That's right.
Really?
Yeah, I was starting to think you didn't like me, Blake, but
you mentioned this last time.
I'm happy we're here.
Really?
He was like, how come Blake hasn't been there when you've asked me to come on, Matt? And I went, don't read into it. He seemed a gracious host today.
I'm less annoyed by him than usual. So
okay, all right. Thanks, Tyson. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks, guys.
Sakaris and Price from the historic Wall Center in the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio, built by Arbor Lee. Game night turns into a game weekend at Wall Center. From puck drop to last call, everything you need is right outside your door. Stay where the fans stay. wallcenter.com. Okay, let's get into this baseball story, Blake. As you know, Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim yesterday put out a statement talking about Major League Baseball in Vancouver. Vancouver should become the next home of a Major League Baseball team, with MLB publicly expressing interest in expansion in the near future. We see an opportunity to position our city as the next home for a franchise. This could be an opportunity to bring something truly special to Vancouver. An MLB team would be a significant step forward for our city and would create lasting memories for fans across generations.
Sure would.
Yeah. The mayor was on with our friends Halford and Bruff this morning. He spitballed the PNE along Burrard Inlet and False Creek as potential locations for the stadium. Said BC Place was a lower probability, not very well suited for baseball. Now,
only one thing missing.
Well, he said yesterday there's prospective ownership. There's a prospective ownership group. And what I would say is that prospective ownership group better be extremely wealthy.
Like amongst the richest people in North America.
I was going to say, you should be able to, it would be a name you know. It would have to be a name you know, because it would have to be somebody in the multi-billion-dollar realm to be able to finance this, because the expansion fee in and of itself is going to be extremely costly. So, of course, would be any kind of land purchase and stadium build. And, of course, in this community, you would need a roof on that stadium, and they tend to be a little more expensive than your run-of-the-mill stadium.
We do have a little bit of light to shed on this, in that months ago, we are in the fall at this point. Somebody we know who is adjacent to movers and shakers in this town said to us, guys, you wouldn't believe this, but I'm hearing of some serious interest in bringing baseball to BC Place. There's owners that are doing tours of BC Place. And we said, no. Like Whitecaps prospective owners are maybe doing that. He said, no, baseball, Major League Baseball. We scoffed. Yeah. And we said, no chance. So for those that are saying this is an election ploy, Ken Sim might be using this as an election ploy, but we did hear this months ago.
Now, what I will say is that, I can't imagine the bring baseball to Vancouver is a big voting block in October, but maybe the mayor thinks differently. Or maybe the mayor wants to position himself as the mayor who's hoping to bring baseball to Vancouver, as opposed to the mayor who loses the Whitecaps on his watch.
Neither one of them is a very optimistic endeavor right now, though.
No. We've talked about this before, too, in that I realize that Rob Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, has said some very flowery things about Canada and Vancouver in particular over the years. It is, of course, in the interest of a Major League Baseball commissioner to set up as many stalking horses, drive as much competition as possible.
Just feeding the fish.
Exactly.
Just putting little bits of chum in the water there and having the little fish just come and eat. Now, just keep them all fed.
The other thing that I think a lot of people, and particularly those in politics and news, may not get is that there really aren't any open expansion bidding processes anymore. In pro sports. They know the markets they want to go to and the owners that they want to own those clubs.
Yeah, it's a closed loop.
You see what the NBA has done. We're expanding, but to Seattle and Vegas, and multiple bids in both markets. Let's see who is willing to pay the most, and we'll make our decision on who is best suited to own these teams. But it's not like back in the old day in the NHL or in the NBA where you had all these markets vying, and there's an announcement IOC style, right? With and the next winter games
unveiling. No.
There's very little of that anymore.
And you know what? Investigations take place. I have no doubt that somebody has shown an interest, but the due diligence and the realization of what you have to work with in Vancouver, which is to say it's very little unless you want to pay astronomical sums. And at that point, then, while Vancouver is a great city, there are also a lot of other cities that cost a fraction of what it costs to get into Vancouver and build a stadium, and you can do it in U.S. dollars, and all that sort of like if the person wants to lose money for fun, sure, that would be great. But that person, again, has to be so well-heeled that they want to lose money for fun.
Well, yeah, because you would not make your money back until you sold the
Years,
franchise somewhere
decades.
down the road. Like operational profits year to year, it's going to take forever. Now, did hear that this prospective group is American, which is interesting to me because why would Americans want to set up shop here? And as we have talked about in the past, an odd thing has happened since the Expos folded up shop and moved to Washington 20 years ago, and that is the Toronto Blue Jays have become a national team, Canada's team. There's no doubt about that. You look at the ratings for Blue Jays games, certainly when they get to the World Series like last October, but even for run-of-the-mill, Wednesday games in May, pretty darn good, coast to coast. And here in Vancouver, you have the added complication of the Seattle Mariners, who have a fan base. So, as we talked about when Manfred first brought Vancouver up some months ago, you, to a degree, already have Vancouver. You have Blue Jays fans here. You have Mariners fans here. And if I'm the Blue Jays or the Mariners and Rob Manfred tables an expansion process to Vancouver, I'd say, well, we want to be compensated by that because they're effectively our territory, even if they're not technically their territory. And that's what you buy when you buy an expansion franchise, right? You buy territorial rights to operate a Major League Baseball team within a given market, and you have, borders around it. So there's that as well. And I got to say, I'm a little surprised that the mayor said that because, of course, the Vancouver Canadians play at city-owned Nat Bailey Stadium. You have a baseball team that is a tenant, a customer of the city of Vancouver, celebrating its 75th season this year, and, of course, an affiliate of the Toronto Blue Jays.
What I am getting excited about is if this person is so rich that they can pull this off, buy the Whitecaps too.
Well,
do a burner.
So that's what I was going to throw at you.
Do a burner bowl stadium at P&E. Like, we've got the technology. Skydome is 50-year-old technology in terms of changing the shape of a stadium, so you can do that. And in terms of changing the turf so that you don't have what New York City FC's been doing, playing at Citi Field and Yankee Stadium, you do burner bowl technology where you just fold over the stadium and the turf sinks into the ground and new floor comes up. You can do that too. We have the technology to do that. So if you're stupid money at this point, let's do it.
Well,
let's do it.
And that's the thing I was going to throw at you, that he mentions the P&E along Burrard Inlet. Is there a possibility for a synergy with a Whitecaps and a baseball get together?
Under that precursor that you can make that stadium. That stadium is available to be made. The engineering is not impossible there, but it would be amongst the most expensive stadiums in the world.
And, of course, a Major League Baseball franchise is almost the most expensive franchise to set up because you have to establish a spring training complex in Florida or Arizona, not to mention academies in the Dominican and Venezuela if you want to compete. Plus setting up the minor league system. You don't own those teams. You don't have to buy those stadiums and things like that, but you do have to reach agreements with minor league affiliates. So it is amongst the most expensive and convoluted startups in all of sport. And then there's this little bit of business, and I don't think this doesn't jump quite front to mind for folks. The Major League Baseball season ticket is the most expensive season ticket in all of sport because you're buying 81 games. So you have to have extremely devoted baseball fans in your market who are willing to go to the ballpark 9 straight days in a homestand. Like we talked about the Canucks in an 8-game homestand and how many season ticket members want to actually go to the rink every second night for basically a month. You've got that on steroids in baseball.
Yeah.
So for individual season ticket members, you're talking about mostly shared season tickets, which means it further puts pressure on a big corporate base to buy those season tickets. And as we know, this isn't exactly a market that is flush with corporate head offices that are out there buying up season tickets. For a hockey team, it can work. For a football or a soccer team, it can work. But the inventory of 81 home games, that is a more expensive investment than anything that Vancouver would have been familiar with today.
It's debate number 4 or 5 on the listed debates that need to happen,
it's a long list, Blake.
Yeah, it's a long list. But my problem is that people have been leading with that. What, you don't think they can support it for 81 days? I think there's another. We can get into that debate. I'll ask Matt in a second. But, folks, that is so far down the list of things that needs to be talked about in this regard. Again, find the person with limitless money
Owner
first,
and stadium is.
and then we'll get to that. But let's get to that.
I've covered a lot of sports business in my day, and it starts with owner and stadium. If you don't have an owner and you don't have a stadium, then really you're pie in the sky.
When you don't have Rob Fay was questioning this. When you don't have Rob Fay,
we have Rob Fay's tweet here. But honestly, Blake, outside of the mayor alluding to a prospective ownership group, there is nothing that separates yesterday's statement from him coming out and saying, we want an NFL team here.
Right. Just say it. Say it. We're joining the Premiership.
We would love an NFL team. Yeah, I would sign up for NFL football in Vancouver. who's paying for it? It's a big question because the mayor did say there won't be a single cent of city dollars.
Just for shits and giggles, though, let's deal with this. Is Vancouver big enough? But let's even is there enough interest to fill, or no? You don't have to fill it every single day in baseball, but
no.
Can you average 70%?
You need 25,000 a night for 81.
Can you average 70%, 65% of the stadium for the season in Vancouver for a decent team? Not for a championship team. Everybody shows up for a championship team.
Well, that's the other thing, Blake, is having covered baseball.
Oh, when you're a 400 team,
your team is bad,
God, nobody
and
there.
You're looking at like 36 more home games through July, August.
Remember
September.
the Jays when they were getting 11,000 to a game?
Blake, I was there. I covered some of the lowest attended Blue Jays games in history between 99 and 2001. You could hear individual conversations.
Way less than a Canucks game in a baseball stadium.
Yeah. Now it's a cheaper game-to-game ticket, so.
But the optics are terrible, and
yeah.
Anyway, so what do you think? Is that possible here in Vancouver for a 525 team? Let's say a winning percentage of 5. Are people showing up every day?
So look, I think there would be a big honeymoon period. I do think there are people in this town that absolutely love baseball. It has been a hub of Canadian baseball for a long time. You see how the Canadians do. They do an excellent crowd, and they're a very well operated franchise. It's very intimate. They're at an excellent family price point. Of course, it would be more expensive for Major League Baseball. I would probably not worry about the first 5 years. I would worry about every year thereafter. But again, that's assuming they get it off the ground.
Oh yeah, it's
like
as I said, it's way down the list.
You're somewhere in the world of like $5 billion to get this thing off the ground. U.S.
If we do have the magic wand, it does happen. All that comes to fruition. Here's the beauty, folks. We can steal the Expos name. We did the Expo too. We could be the Vancouver Expos.
And there are people who are some sore about this in the city of Montreal, where there has been a Revive the Expos campaign for some time. Now, interestingly, baseball fans in Quebec are pretty much Blue Jays fans now, too. The games have been on for 20 years in French. Like, they are...
yeah, they are. They like our friends in this space, the digital space, that do this out, like Tony Marinaro, like they talk Blue Jays
now because there's an appetite there. And when Manfred talks Canada, I do think he means Montreal more than Vancouver, even if he name checks Vancouver because of the history of that market and because it's a blight on Major League Baseball, right? Anytime you have to relocate a franchise, you feel bad for that city and the baseball fans that you leave behind. Anyways, you mentioned Fay. Here he is. Let me save the city some time and money. Major League Baseball has several ready to go, shovels at the ready, potential bids from cities with serious buyers: Nashville, Salt Lake City, Portland. I think San Antonio as well may have a 72-cent dollar, no stadium, and a Major League team already in Vancouver, set to relocate if we don't get our shit together. He's talking about the Whitecaps. A committee to explore the possibilities of Major League Baseball. Just grab any article that's come out in the market every single year like clockwork, talking about the exact same thing. Read through those, call it a day. Vancouver's a world-class city, but its focus should absolutely not be on Major League Baseball. You want another pro team back in the city, go try your luck with the WNBA or NBA, where you already have a home ready to go. Good grief. And Rob's a Canadians guy, and of course, if you're a Vancouver Canadians person and you read something like this, it's a little bit daunting. But Rob's also a baseball guy, and Rob's talking the truth here.
I also think, Matt, like, again, if you have the magic wand and all this comes to fruition, are you telling me the Major League team isn't going to tap and hire most of the Vancouver Canadians people to come over and help out, given that they know the market?
They have.
Anybody that reads that and says, "Oh, Rob Fay's just trying to protect his job because he's back working with the Canadian," I would say that most of those, again, this is the magic pie in the sky scenario.
Of course.
I would think most of those people end up working for that team.
If you're establishing a Major League Baseball team in Vancouver, the first call you're making is to guys like Alan Bailey and Walter Kosman and Rob Fay and the Vancouver Canadians
they know the
operators.
Markets. But again, not happening.
Yeah. Jay Janauer from Global weighing in. Let's also keep in mind that our province has next to zero corporate head office financial support. The best teams in MLS lose tens of millions every season and is likely leaving town. The NBA and WNBA is also out because of it. Enough of this clickbait garbage.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm interested in the conversation that took place behind closed doors to get Mayor Sim to be the public face
because
of this.
it doesn't cover him in glory that he's bringing this up.
Like, duly charmed by whoever this prospective ownership group was, who mentioned, "Hey, we want to buy a baseball team, and we want to buy an expansion team, and we're considering Vancouver."
And just to underscore exactly how much or how little super rich people like to lose money. Because people might say, "Oh, just get somebody super, super rich." Live Golf is on the ropes right now.
Yeah.
And it has literally limitless money because it's just coming out of the ground there in Saudi.
Yeah.
They shouldn't care. But eventually, even the, what is it, PWF? What do they call that? The
PIF.
PIF. Just said, it looks like they're saying to themselves, yeah, this is less worth it than we thought.
Rory's won another Masters. The ratings were great.
PGA's doing just fine on their own.
Exactly.
They don't like to lose money for no reason. And that's the danger.
Yeah. As for the baseball team that is in Vancouver, the Seas fell 5-3 yesterday in Spokane. Starter Austin Cates gave up a home run in the first inning, then retired 8 consecutive batters, including 7 via strikeout consecutively. Surrendered a few hits in the fifth. Final line, 4 2/3, 4 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, 10 Ks in 4 2/3. 2 and 8 C's face another ranked prospect on the bump today for Spoke. They reply with Landon Marudas, who's a pretty decent prospect in his own right. Home Tuesday for a 6-game set at the Nat, celebrating 75 years with a 75th anniversary pin giveaway on Tuesday and a poncho giveaway on White Spot Family Fun Sunday. Get your tickets 604-872-5232 or CanadiansBaseball.com. M's lose, Jays win, but Jeff Hoffman blows the save, and they need extra innings. Emerson Hancock for Seattle tonight. He's been very good. Dylan Cease for Toronto. He's been excellent, too. And the Jays announced that Trey Savage will make a rehab start with AAA Buffalo today, expected to throw 60 to 70 pitches. So if all goes well, could take his next turn in the rotation with the big club. Be good to see the former Vancouver Canadian rejoin that ailing
Do they need any
rotation.
pitching?
Yeah, they need some pitching. Yeah.
Center back for the Whitecaps or pitcher for the Blue Jays? Who's got it worse?
Center back for the Whitecaps would like to enter the chat there as well.
Yes.
Goldeneyes get a 4-1 win over Seattle before 10,094 at the Pacific Coliseum. Vancouver 6 points back of a playoff spot, 3 teams to jump, giving away games to 2 of them. But they get Seattle, who is now officially eliminated, again Saturday at Climate Pledge. They'll be rooting for New York to beat Toronto tonight. Goldeneyes finish with Tuesday, Saturday home games at the Coliseum next week.
As I said, it's unlikely they are able to make any playoff push here, but
make it interesting, right? Like,
and even more so than the Canucks finishing with a slew of wins here. The Goldeneyes, in their opening year, those aren't junk wins because this is a build, obviously, not a rebuild. It's just a build, and you want to know who you want to keep around, right? This is a bit of a test, and you also just want to make sure that you're the better of the expansion team.
Right. I think, unfortunately, they were saddled with some expectations from people who looked at the roster and went, wow, there's a lot of accomplished names on that team. But and former Canucks in-arena host Hannah Bernard worked the game last night. Good to see Hannah back. We've seen her on social media here recently. A little bit of shade at her former employer. So fun to help out the PWHL Vancouver tonight. My lord, they have it figured out. The Canucks should take notes on how to bring wholesome homegrown hockey vibes into a building because they've nailed it. The $5 beers help, though. Yeah, not wrong, Hannah.
Mm-hmm.
Big win for Canada and Canadian women's soccer. Vanessa Gillies reminded everyone, according to Canadian Soccer Daily, just how good she is in the air. Scored twice with her head in a 3-1 victory over South Korea. Casey Stoney, the head coach, said she's the best in the world on aerial set pieces. And that's 2 thorough victories for Canada here at this FIFA 2026 series in Brazil.
Well, this is down a man, too, down a woman. They go down in the 26th minute.
To 10.
They're up a goal at that time, but on the foul that saw the red card, Korea scored. So it's 1-1.
Yeah.
Immediately, you're not even a half hour old, and you're thinking, oh my God, they started so well. Beautiful goal to get things going. You're down to 10, and you're thinking, okay, I guess the best they can do here is a draw.
No.
That's a great
Two
win.
more goals. They've won 3 of the past 5 and a narrow loss to the USA. So things are trending
In which
well
they
for
played
this
well.
team.
On the judges' cards, they played well versus the US.
They were excellent.
Yeah.
So things are looking up for this program.
That's good. They needed this.
Oh, boy, did they ever, because they did not end 2025 glowingly. It was 5 straight losses, if I'm not mistaken. At least.
And goals were down.
And they did not score. FIFA has released more tickets for the World Cup group games at BC Place. Tickets for all 5 games are available. As AFTN notes, it's mostly Category 1, but some Category 2 tickets. Canada versus Qatar. You can see the seat maps there that he's provided. These are where some of those tickets are located. The cheapest tickets that are remaining as of last night, you can get into Canada Qatar for $2,625. Canada Switzerland $24.50. How is the Swiss game less expensive than the Qatar game? New Zealand Egypt for $530. Can I interest anyone? Maybe Ambassador Paul down in New Zealand. Want to come up to your favorite city? Go to that game. Or New Zealand Belgium for $1,400.
Yeah. I'm going to pass. Don't have that disposable income for the family of 6.
Yeah. You don't have
the 20K line around?
I was going to say, yeah. You don't have $12,000 to go to a soccer match? Results of yesterday's poll question. We asked you, final home game at Rogers Arena this season, time for a sell the team chant, yes or no? People said
no.
They said yes,
Oh,
84%. Lemecki, nah, because the people in attendance are clueless and are literally giving Aqua money. Rogue Canucks says, never happening, would be a wasted chance. Something like Fire JR or Clean House would be more purposeful, in my opinion. And JT says, there should have been a sell the team chant in November. Yeah, we saw a lot of that as well. Errors and omissions from yesterday's program. John Shannon misspoke. Roberto's name has been retired by the Canucks, not his number. He is a Ring of Honor guy, not a retired number somehow, some way. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Follow on social, X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky Live, many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And, of course, please do support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. Keep it local.